It was just past midnight when the ambulance rolled in. I'd been halfway through my night shift at the emergency department, nothing out of the ordinary. A few car accidents, some alcohol poisonings, the usual chaos you learn to carry in your bones. But the moment I saw the paramedics rushing toward the doors, something twisted in my gut. 3 stretchers, faces I couldn't quite see. Then I heard one of the nurses gasp beside me, "Oh my God, that's your wife, and your son." I froze. My heart dropped into a silence no alarm could pierce. I ran to them, every part of me shaking. Julia, my wife, pale and unconscious. Mark, my teenage son, blood on his forehead. And then, the third stretcher, my brother Daniel. I hadn't seen him in weeks. His face was bruised, but peaceful, like he had just dozed off. What the hell happened? I barked, my voice cracking. One of the EMTs said they were found in a car unresponsive, barely breathing. No sign of collision, no drugs detected. It's like they just passed out, he muttered. I looked at all 3 of them, laid out under the harsh white hospital lights, and something inside me began to splinter. My family together, in one car without me, and no one could tell me why. The hours that followed were a blur of clipped orders, heart monitors, and a storm I couldn't calm inside my chest. Julia was stabilized first, her vitals steady, though she hadn't regained consciousness. Mark followed, but it was Daniel who worried me most. His oxygen levels were dangerously low, and when his body convulsed briefly, I had to step back and let my colleagues take over. I wasn't a husband or a father in that moment. I was a doctor, forced to watch everything unravel from behind glass. When Julia finally woke, she looked around with wide, confused eyes. "Where's Daniel?" she whispered hoarsely. "Not me. Not Mark. Daniel." It echoed like a slap. I didn't answer. I waited. Her breathing quickened, her hands gripping the blanket like it could protect her from the truth she knew was coming. "We were just talking," she said, "just catching up." But something in her voice, the fear, the hesitation, told me she wasn't just afraid of what happened. She was afraid of what I might have found out. I nodded slowly, fighting the bile rising in my throat. At midnight, in a car, with our son asleep in the back seat, she looked away. No explanation, no defense, just silence. Mark stirred in the next room, his voice groggy. "Is Mom okay?" he mumbled. I walked over, brushing the hair from his forehead. "You're safe," I told him, "but I need you to tell me something, buddy. What were you doing with Uncle Daniel tonight?" He blinked, dazed, before answering. I woke up in the car. Mom and Uncle Daniel were in the front seat. She was crying. He was holding her hand. I swallowed hard. That was all I needed to hear, and more than I was ready for. Later that morning, toxicology reports came in. Clean. No alcohol, no sleeping pills, no gas leaks or carbon monoxide. Medically, there was no reason they should have passed out like that. But emotionally, spiritually, that night had already become a crash site of its own. Julia avoided my eyes each time I entered her room. Daniel still hadn't regained consciousness, and I wasn't sure which outcome I was hoping for anymore. To hear his side of the story, or to never hear his voice again. Mark was discharged that evening, and I took him home, tucking him into bed like I used to when he was a child. But inside, I was hollow. A father broken, a husband betrayed, and a brother abandoned by blood. The next day, Julia called me, not to apologize, not to explain, just to ask if Mark was okay. Her voice was flat, tired. She didn't even ask if I was okay. She didn't need to. I'd spent all night replaying the pieces, the time she started going for walks after dinner, the way Daniel stopped answering my calls, the cold tension I'd ignored. All those puzzle pieces fit now, cruelly and perfectly. I told her we'd be filing for custody. I told her she could see Mark under supervised visitation. And then I hung up. No yelling, no tears. Just the final silence of a man who has already lost too much to fight for what's already gone. I still work nights sometimes, still hear the echo of sirens that once meant nothing more than routine. But every time those red lights flash now, they remind me some betrayals don't leave bruises or burn marks. Some sneak in like poison, soft and invisible. And when they're exposed, they don't scream, they whisper.